It's time for Pure Performance.
Get your stopwatches ready. It's time for Pure Performance with Andy Grabner and Brian Wilson. Hello, everybody. Before we get into today's episode, I wanted to preempt it with a public service announcement just to let you all know we had quite some challenges with the audio when we recorded this episode, so please forgive us. I've done my best to clean it up and make it as listenable as possible. Hope you enjoy the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another fun-filled episode of Pure Performance. My name is Brian Wilson, and as always, sitting virtually next to me is my sidekick, Andy Grabner. Andy, how are you doing today?
I'm actually pretty good over in Austria right now.
Wow, that's great. And you've been doing a lot of traveling lately, haven't you? But before we get to your traveling, you being in Austria, we've been talking about people being on the show 2 times, a lot lately, and today is our quickest 2-timer turnaround ever, isn't it? Right? Because we just recorded an episode with this person about a month or 2 ago, and now they're back for another episode.
So that's basically the shortest MTTT, mean time to 2-timer.
Yes, exactly. And now you've been traveling a lot, right? You've been at a lot of really cool conferences lately, haven't you, Andy?
That's true. Last week I actually spent in Scotland, in Edinburgh, at a castle, with our friends from Neotis.
Yeah, I saw you posted a picture of that. That was like a real castle, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I bet the cell phone reception was amazing.
Exactly. It says no service. But actually, no. Let's go ahead. We want to lift the secret about who is the fastest MTTT guy. Actually, it's the guy in this case, Marcus. Welcome back to the show.
Hi guys. Thanks for joining. Let me join again.
Thank you for joining.
And I'm not sure if people remember what we talked about the first time, but we had you on the show a while ago where we talked about infrastructure as code.
Yes.
That was pretty cool.
That is true.
And today we want to talk about something different. What is it?
It is how we as a company are hosting our own website. And as we are doing it, in my eyes, on a very high sophisticated level, we wanted to share that with the audience and to highlight what we basically did to let our enterprise website being very stable, very robust, and of course very fast, as we are a performance company. Mm-hmm. So we are very cautious about providing a fast website and providing a good experience to our website listeners.
So if I could interject here, a while back we had on both Bernd and Anita discussing how we transform from a 6-month release to 1-hour code deployments. And obviously now we're running in AWS. So today's talk is kind of like, if you want to think of it this way, this is us zooming in on the infrastructure and AWS part and what we achieve there. Is that a fair assessment?
Not really, because Bernd and Anita, I think
totally wrong.
We are running on the product we are hosting, and we are actually talking about our own website. So basically, if you hit www.dynatrace.com, that's what you get when you enter our website, and that's what we're going to talk about. Both is running on AWS actually, but it's running on a very different scheme actually, and what we did in our website is what we want to share and provide today.
All right.
But it's really good, Brian, that you brought it up, actually playing somebody that would assume that when we talk about Dynatrace, that we obviously talk about our monitoring products. But this time it's actually a website that is probably projects, a similar project that many companies have out there. They have website, they use different ways of hosting a website, but you gave us a nice write-up on what you want to talk about.
Yep.
And I think it starts about 2 years ago, Christmas 2015.
Yeah, that's
when the whole
right.
project started.
We got in touch with AWS in the years prior to 2015, actually, with some smaller projects. And we learned about all the functionality of AWS. And we wanted to leverage this for our website as well. Mm-hmm. We were running on a pretty large CMS days back. And we started thinking about how we can basically get our very clumsy CMS thingy into the cloud and get it fast. And we had some key use cases in mind when we started this project. And I took my Christmas vacation in some spare minutes to start decoding on that. We wanted to get basically to use the core features of AWS. We wanted to be the site resilient, multi-zone and multi-region deployment. So if in a rare case that, for example, Amazon US East goes down, I don't want that our website is down. So that's the reason why we got in the first place for multi-zone and multi-region deployments. It should be, of course, automatically scaling in terms of load, and it should be, of course, fully CI driven. So I don't want to touch any manual step to get our website out. This was the core ideas behind our website deployments. And definitely we wanted to have different stages. So we wanted to have a development and a staging environment where we can actually see if and how our website is working, if there are some problems around. And of course, we wanted to have everything automated. As I laid down in the first podcast, actually, we are large promoters of automate everything you can do. And of course, we followed that paradigm as well in our website deployment.
That's pretty cool. And so if I hear this right, in the old way, we had a CMS system, and it meant going through multiple hoops to actually get a change into the different environments. And then I remember these days, right? Sometimes it's like, it felt like forever to get changes out there. And so now, everything fully automated. How often do we, I know I may jump ahead a little bit, but how often do we deploy now?
We nailed it down to 1 to 2 deployments a day because we have everything in Git and the merging process and reviewing process is done once a day. But we do a lot more deployments a day in the staging and in the dev branches. But on production, we usually go for 1, sometimes 2 deployments, but if there are more, it's just hitting a button and it runs. Yeah,
and that's cool. I mean, sometimes people ask me, you talk about the Facebooks of the world and how often they deploy, like every 11 seconds. Obviously, this only makes sense for certain companies.
Yes.
For a website project like ours, I mean, twice a day already seems very flexible, right? Because you can push code out if you need it for whatever reason, a new campaign comes in or something changes. You need to get a new customer logo out there because we just signed them for a case study, and then it has to be quick. Right?
Or you do some marketing campaigns, right? So, and marketing campaigns have to be timed in triggering Google Ad, whatever you can think of. So it sometimes needs that you have some comment changes, and then you schedule for, 1 p.m. you need to get a certain page out because it's being promoted by Google or something. So this is also something to think about. And as everything is running as a pipeline, you can even schedule something for 2 a.m. in the morning because it just goes out at that particular time.
That's pretty cool. So that means if you have something prepared in staging the day before, everything looks good, and then you just schedule the production pipeline for 2 o'clock in the morning, and then you exactly know what happens at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Marcus, you mentioned that merge and review phase. That's a manual process, correct?
Yeah, of course, because all contributors are humans, right? So the actual content is being produced by humans. So we have our marketing guys creating our awesome pages. We have partner managers and all sorts of contributors, and they want to get their content in the website basically. And to get this done, you create a branch within our Git environment. Then you get pull request and all CI coverage on that as well, like having a linter that don't produce bad links or something, so that everything from a semantic point of view is consistent. Of course, the content itself needs to be also reviewed by a guy to make grammar and all this stuff correct.
And did you also know that you have podcast producers putting content on your pages? I'm pretty familiar with this process you just described. Every 2 weeks we have to check in a new branch, which gets reviewed by Lucas. Hi, Lucas, and thanks if you're listening. So yeah, we actually take part in this ourselves. Get to see the automation take place during each check-in. It usually goes through an automated checklist to check for multiple criteria, I guess, and then it waits for the manual review before getting merged and published a little while later, usually by the next day, but sometimes as short as a few hours, depending, I guess, when I do it.
Cool.
So it's like doing a static code analysis or some things like that,
Yeah,
right? With
yeah.
when you refer back to regular programming, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Because you always be in the case that you enter a link or you refer to a sub-page within your article you are writing, and you just have a typo in, and no one ever will catch that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And as we have everything in code, we can just check if this page you're referring to is existing, and if not, you're just being refused to create the pull request.
Cool. So then, if you just said everything is in code, can you tell me, like, how do I write? What's the code that I write in that then gets moved and transferred into a website? How does this work?
Well, basically, we are using a static website generator because, as everyone knows, creating like a CMS way, you always have one single point of performance, and that is your web server, which is actually providing the contents. And we learned that having that running on the server actually is a penalty on rendering time. And so we actually let our CI building all the content, and that's usually some markdown files. Yeah. We added some special flavors for headers and several other ease of use for the content contributors. And then we generate out of these large files of markdown and images. We scale them into different image sets that they can be zoomed in the website and so on, that everything is pre-generated to the server, barely does only deliver the content and does not need to render anything. And we create a big zip. I think it's around 700, 800 megabytes. We generate each build of our website, roughly. And this is done asynchronously offline, and it does not have any impact on the rendering side. And then we just push out this content into our website stack, and then it gets distributed.
And the 700-800 meg, that includes obviously all the images, the videos, and everything we have on the website. That's why it's rather large.
That's the biggest contributors is the images, of course.
And then also multi-language, because I know our website is available in different languages and all that stuff. Yeah.
And I'm happy to announce, since 2 weeks, we are even running in the Chinese part of Amazon. So we have a dynatrace.cn running, entirely in Chinese region. Yeah. And it is lightning fast, not from our side, but within Chinese region, it's very fast. We got the feedback.
Yeah, cool. Because getting through the Chinese wall is tough from either side. I guess.
And so we are just providing our content on their servers, and then it's fast again.
Cool. Now, you mentioned that 2 years ago you looked into the different AWS offerings and different services. Now, you mentioned there's a pipeline, but I assume you really use the AWS code pipeline, the code deploy. What do you use? Or did you pick something else?
No. We are leveraging the compute features from Amazon and the content and storage capabilities from AWS. But as we are a software development company, we have our own pipelines and tooling around, and we basically are using the tooling we have here in our lab. And this is a big build system, and we are using Gradle actually to drive our builds, where we trigger all the static site creation and compression of the pictures and all this stuff. And also orchestrating basically the pipeline, which steps are needed to actually create the instances, create all the tooling around to get everything fitting in together, that Amazon is able to start new instances.
And when we do an update, is this a rolling update, or is this how does the deployment work on the existing? So the website runs right now, right? Yeah. On some EC2's machines. And an update comes along. How does this work? You deploy it on a new machine, and then just basically with the load balancer, with the scalability groups, you move over, or do you deploy the new content on the existing machines and then extract it? How does this work? How does the update process work?
As we had a very strong security focus when we started with the project, because everyone knows that very prominent websites have been defaced, and you get all these SQL injection problems, and I don't know if you run a CMS. We started in the first place to do not get in this situation, and what we ended up with is to leverage our immutable infrastructure pattern also to our website. So our website runs an immutable image of the existing website. So there is barely anything you can change on the website host. It's just one small part, and it is a logging. And even the logging is being streamed directly to a logging server. So just in case an attack happens, and the rare case that somebody opens a box, we still get the logs, and the attacker cannot change or hide his entrance by modifying the logs, because they are just streamed away. And to answer your question, we basically replace every EC2 instance running on our website is being replaced with a very new version once we deploy a new release of our website. And we did that by basically using AMIs. So we are creating a new AMI for each version of our website, distribute this AMI across multiple zones within the region, and also distribute it across our regions we want to have the website being hosted. So we have one in US, one in Europe, now 2 in Asia, because we are running in Chinese as well. We have 4 regions where we deploy our image in, and it's binary identical. So the image we are running in staging is the very same we run in production. So if we see, or the content provider is reviewing their content on the staging environment, can be sure that this very same content is being running in production, because we do not change anything on these images. And then we are just leveraging launch configurations and autoscaling groups. So we create a new set of each for each version we provide. And then we integrate the new autoscaling group in the load balancer we are running. And then the autoscaling group takes care to actually start the required amount of instances. And then we wait until these new instances are working and successfully registered in the load balancer. And then we do connection training and start killing the existing ones. And this has a great advantage in the rare case that something really goes bad, even in production. The old ones won't be dropped, because if they are not successfully running in the load balancer, the remaining are not being killed. So it's very resilient, and we are running since March 2016 actually in production, and we had no outage till now.
Cool. And
One small, we had this when in beginning of, or was it late 2016, where this big DDoS from PlayStation network sort of thing also hit our DNS provider. We had a small outage, but only in the US. So remaining regions were still working as we had this distributed setup.
That's pretty cool. I think, Brian, we talked about the DDoS attack with others in the past, and I think we mentioned back then that we got a little hit on that. Yeah. Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing. So my question is, you have a lot of availability, a lot of security. You're obviously trying to make the website bulletproof. And now we're running the site in multiple regions, right, to cover the different geographical locations of our website. But they're all AWS regions. Do we have any plans on spreading out over multiple cloud providers? As we're talking about this EC2 DDoS attack, which impacted our North American site. In order to cover those scenarios where a problem on a single vendor occurs, are we planning on distributing that risk over multiple vendors?
Well, right now we are actually pretty heavy with the AWS. But as we are just utilizing some APIs, so we are now using the Amazon APIs, it wouldn't be much of a problem to actually go to Azure or to Google Cloud, because it would be just another Gradle layer in between to use the Google Cloud, for example. But we took some countermeasures already to mitigate these problems, and we are pretty confident that we are not being hit by another DDoS.
Obviously, we are at the end a monitoring company. So how do we monitor the website?
With Dynatrace, of course.
Oh my god! Who would have thought? Yeah. No, but how? I mean, what's any best practices? Anything that you learned, or what do you do?
Well, we did quite a bunch of monitoring with Admon prior to that, and of course, 2015 we were in the early stages of Dynatrace, and we started right away going with Dynatrace. And there we did not have to set any collector or any in-between infrastructure needed because we are just using the SaaS offering from Dynatrace, so we are an internal customer, so to say. And we did not need to change anything because we are just downloading our agent from our tenant, which is also baked into our image. And then if we create a new image, we get a new version of our agent. And lessons learned is it works out of the box. If you do a cloud native deployment, Dynatrace is the way to go.
Cool. So that's actually a good question for me. So that means you are, when you build the AMI, you're baking the agent in, and it's not because the way I've done some AWS tutorials, monitoring tutorials, and I typically show how to download the agent, install it during the startup in the user data section of your EC2 instance. So, but you are going a different route.
Yeah, we live the immutable image pattern very strictly, so it wasn't a deal for us to let this change in our environment. So we really bake everything together, and we are downloading a new version of the agent once we are want to have it. So it's more an orchestrator part.
Cool. And just out of curiosity, how many EC2 instances right now power Dynatrace.com on a day-to-day basis?
It's around it's 8 basically.
It's 8, yeah. So in every availability zone or in every geographical location,
we have 2.
We have 2, yeah.
And we have four regions running right now.
Yeah.
And of course, not counted all the staging and dev environments, but for production we are running with 8 instances. And as we have everything statically running, we just need T2 medium instances.
Okay, cool.
And before we were using a product which was very expensive, where we paid roughly $500,000 a year for just letting the website running.
Okay. Wow.
And now we are down from the run rate costs a lot, and we got a lot more resilience and stability, and of course performance.
Cool.
That's funny. Just before you were talking about it, I was about to ask you if we're being smart in our monitoring and understanding how much it's costing us to run in the cloud, and are we in fact saving money?
Yeah, because as we have everything statically generated, our web servers don't need to be smart, so they don't need to generate pages up on demand, so they're just delivering content, so it's about reading from disk. And Linux is very smart about caching all the file system access, and once the instance is running a couple of minutes, the most usaged sites are in the file system cache, and then you're just delivering the contents, and we are doing some caching layers in between and also keep it in memory, so it's very sophisticated, but on the other hand very cheap deployment. Think about, we are running 24/7 without any downtime, and at a cost rate from, I think it's $300 or $400 a month we have to pay for the whole website, and
that's it.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's a big gain. How do you deal with backend systems that you're depending on? Because I'm sure there are some backend systems when you fill out forms, when you do certain things to the website.
Marketo, if you think about that, is just also integrated within, but if Marketo is down, then we can't do a lot about it. But we're also running a blog, right? So and the blog is also integrated in our website. And the blog is running WordPress. And we used to run it in Pagely, but we had severe problems also with downtimes and responsiveness and so on. And what we did there is, as we all know, WordPress has a lot of security holes in there, and barely a week goes by if not an CVE is being released for WordPress. So what we did there basically, we have an authoring system only being accessible from the inside.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need to generate a new blog post, you need to be within the corporate network.
Mm-hmm.
And this is being then generated in the authoring system running in the EC2 cloud, but only with accessible from the corporate network. And there we are basically caching and pre-generating all the blog content on a caching layer, and we are prohibiting all VP admin and all other malicious or potential malicious and vulnerable REST cores to our hidden WordPress installation. So we basically have a mixture of pseudo changeable content in the blog, as every company needs a blog, right? This is not non-questionable. But there are pretty hard security concerns behind. And the solution we came up with is we are just caching the content. If it goes down, we still have the caching.
Yeah. It's like a reverse proxy, basically. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's a reverse proxy with some caching in between, and also it's not going back if it detects it's down. It's not providing the 500 or 400 or something, what you still get. It's just delivering the content has in the cache. And meanwhile, as everything is an auto-scaling group, it still recovers and going up, and then it will provide the new content or the remaining content.
Pretty cool.
So, Andy, shall we summon the summarator?
Let's do it.
I think we should summon this summarator. So, if I may summarize, we went from our old rigid process, which was using a CMS system that was, first of all, very costly, to a fully automated, we generate our website twice a day for production and push it out through immutable infrastructure, which means we're actually building AMIs twice a day that can get deployed into production. The same images are also first deployed into staging, where we can actually validate all the changes. Deployment in staging actually happens much more frequently.
Much more often, you're right.
But we're deploying across 4 different geographical locations in Amazon, always in 2 availability zones, which makes obviously a lot of sense. And we got the flexibility of the newer model, high performance monitoring built in, because Dynatrace 1 agents are built into the AMIs.
Yes.
And better performance in the end. I think that's the key thing. And a lot of cool lessons learned on how to leverage a CI/CD pipeline, not only with traditional software products, but actually with a website.
Yes, so you're right there. Yeah, just to mention the performance part, I wasn't able to point that out. We are basically down to roughly 500 milliseconds to deliver the website into the browser.
Cool. And we know that by fact because we have Dynatrace RAM. Exactly.
You're right.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Did I miss anything?
I think no.
Yeah. Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this is really cool. You know, a while ago we had those sessions I mentioned earlier with Bernd and Anita, where we discussed our own digital transformation for developing our product, but I don't think I'd considered our website at all. You know, it's not our product, yet it's a major asset of ours. I even noticed as I've been updating the podcast page that the process had changed quite a bit, but I never really thought about it. I can say, though, that the process to put in changes has become much easier. I think it's kind of cool to think about, especially if you work at a company where your product isn't the website. If you're not at Amazon or Snapchat or some web property, but just a property that uses a website to communicate about your product, the delivery and maintenance of that website is very important and deserves to go through its own transformation. And in our own case, we could see how it made us. In our own case, we can see how it made the work for us all much easier, as well as it saves us a lot of money, right? So Marcus, thanks for coming on again and for joining the Two-Timer Club. Congratulations. And really just thanks for sharing this story. It was great.
Thank you. But I just want to follow up on that, Brian. I think it's also important that you as a content contributor actually got no friction by generating a pipeline-based workflow, right? So this was also something our website experience colleagues are very worried about, to provide a CMS-like user experience for the content creators, actually. Because, of course, you could create all the pipeline stuff, and it could be very clumsy in the end, that you need to git check out and git commit and all this stuff. But, of course, we also had the view on the experience of the users actually, because if it's hidden and it's always working, it's also nice for you guys actually providing content, and that you don't need to worry about, is this a CMS or is it a content-driven pipeline? Because in the end, it's the experience also of the users which are providing the content.
Is content-driven pipeline a term that is out there? Or did you just come up with that?
Maybe it's a new term, as we had the snowflakes last time, Brian, right? So we might have the content CI.
Yeah, I'm Googling it right now.
Yeah, it's really cool. And content-driven pipelines makes a lot of sense. And while he's Googling or Binging or whatever he's doing, another thought that came to mind, which we implicitly mentioned, but as a content developer, I basically have my own branch, and I can basically deploy my changes into my own dev environment, which, as you said, is completely the same as it will look later on in production, because I'm running through the same pipeline. In the end falls out an AMI, which you deploy into EC2, and boom, here we go.
Yeah.
This is pretty beautiful. Cool.
Okay, are you ready? I did a search for content-driven pipeline in quotes, and I only got 4 hits.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. We have I think we have a name for a title for the episode. Content-driven pipelines. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Well, Marcus, thank you very much for coming, as always. And, well, now you have a challenge. You are now part of the Two Timers Club and have the opportunity, if you have another thought or idea, to come back on to be the first in the Three Timer Club. So the challenge is all on you, my friend. Thanks for coming on. And for anybody else out there listening, if you would like to join our podcast, either have an idea for us to discuss, or maybe even come on, maybe even be a quick riser to this 2 or 3 Timers Club yourself, we'd love to have your ideas or love to talk with you. You could send us a tweet at pure_DT or send us an email at pureperformance@dynatrace.com. We'd love to hear from you.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye.